Have you ever faced someone so arrogant, so full of pride, that every word they speak feels like a battle? They interrupt, they look down on others, and they make conversations feel like competitions. But what if I told you, you don't need to fight arrogance with arrogance? True power lies in calmness, not confrontation. Today, I will share with you 8 powerful phrases that quietly disarm arrogant people. These phrases don't attack. They dissolve the ego, create silence, and remind others that strength doesn't shout. It stands still. Let us begin this lesson. In awareness, presence, and peace. Phrase 1. You might be right. When someone speaks with arrogance, their goal is not to connect. It is to dominate. They want to win, to prove, to rise above you. But here lies a paradox. When you stop fighting for control, you gain it. Saying you might be right is not surrender. It is mastery. It is the art of disarming the ego with humility. In the Shaolin Temple, we are taught that a calm mind is stronger than a sharp tongue. When you speak this phrase, you are not agreeing. You are releasing the need to prove yourself. Arrogant people thrive on resistance. They feed on arguments, on the fire of reaction. But when you meet arrogance with serenity, their fire finds no fuel. You remove the battlefield from their mind. They expect confrontation. Instead, you offer calm acknowledgement, and that confuses them. It breaks their rhythm. You might be right. Creates space. And in that space, their ego has nowhere to stand. You shift the power from emotion to awareness. You show that you are not affected, that their pride cannot move you. And this is what truly disarms them. When you say these words with genuine peace, you teach a silent lesson. Confidence does not need to fight to be seen. True confidence is quiet. It does not rush to prove because it already knows. Imagine a person trying to dominate you with words, trying to show they are smarter, stronger, superior. Instead of pushing back, you breathe deeply and simply say, "You might be right." Your tone is gentle, your eyes steady. The moment you speak it, something shifts, not in them, but in you. The tension fades, the pressure dissolves, and suddenly you are no longer in their game. This phrase is powerful because it removes your ego from the conversation. Arrogant people rely on your reaction. Without it, their pride collapses. They expect conflict, but you give them compassion. You show them tuwal, that you are not playing the same game. In Shaolin philosophy, we say, to defeat arrogance, you must rise above it, not beneath it. That means you cannot meet pride with pride, or anger with anger. You must become the mirror, calm, still, reflective. When you respond with, "You might be right," it is like water meeting fire. You do not resist, you dissolve. You remind them, and yourself, that peace is stronger than pride. The power of this phrase lies not in the words alone, but in the energy behind them. It is not sarcasm, not submission. It is awareness. It is a choice to protect your inner stillness instead of wasting it on arguments. So the next time someone tries to prove they are above you, do not engage, do not fight, simply breathe, smile, and say softly, "You might be right." Because in that moment, you will not just disarm their arrogance, you will rise above it. Phrase 2. I see where you're coming from. When you face arrogance, your first instinct is often to defend yourself, to prove your intelligence, your worth, your point. But in doing so, you step into their arena. Arrogant people thrive on competition. They want to pull you into their storm of superiority. Yet, there is a higher way, the way of stillness. And one of the most powerful tools of stillness is the phrase, "I see where you're coming from." These words may seem simple, but they hold a quiet wisdom. You are not agreeing, you are not submitting. You are acknowledging the other person's perspective without letting it control you. This subtle shift changes the entire dynamic of the conversation. When you say, I see where you're coming from, you remove tension. You are showing emotional intelligence, that you can understand someone without losing yourself. This is deeply disarming to an arrogant person, because their power thrives on emotional reaction. When you don't react, when you simply observe and acknowledge, you take that power away. In the Shaolin Temple, we are taught to control others, first control yourself. This phrase is an example of that control. It tells the world that your self-respect does not depend on being right, but on being centered. Let's imagine this in a real conversation. Someone is trying to lecture you, speak over you, or correct you harshly. Instead of snapping back, you look at them calmly and say, I see where you're coming from. Your tone is soft, your posture relaxed. You don't rush to explain your side. You let silence follow your words. In that silence, their arrogance begins to lose its balance. They were expecting resistance, not reflection. Your calmness exposes the insecurity beneath their pride. And in that moment, you show that true strength is not in dominance, but in composure. These words are like the still surface of water. Whatever force touches them is reflected back, not absorbed. You don't have to lower yourself to their level. You stay grounded, aware, in control. The beauty of I see where you're coming from is that it holds empathy without agreement. It builds bridges without surrender. It is the verbal form of balance, yin and yang in perfect harmony. In Shaolin teaching, there is a saying, the softest touch defeats the hardest stone. The same applies to speech. When you speak softly from strength, arrogance crumbles before you. You see, arrogant people often speak from a place of inner emptiness. They shout to be heard because they fear being unseen. When you acknowledge them calmly, you give them what they are desperately seeking, recognition. And once they feel seen, the need to dominate often fades. So next time someone tries to speak over you or prove their superiority, remember, you do not need to outshine them. You only need to stay grounded. Look at them, breathe deeply, and say, I see where you're coming from. Because in that single moment, you are no longer reacting. You are leading. And that quiet leadership commands more respect than arrogance ever could. Phrase 3. Let's agree to disagree. There comes a moment in every heated discussion when you realize this is not about truth anymore. It's about ego. The arrogant person isn't listening to understand. They are listening to win. And when you see this clearly, the wisest thing you can do is to step back. That is where the power of the phrase, let's agree to disagree, reveals itself. These 5 words create an invisible wall of peace between you and their pride. You are not surrendering. You are simply choosing harmony over hostility. You are saying, I value my peace more than I value proving a point. And that in itself is strength. Arrogant people live for debate. They need to be right. It feeds their ego, it sustains their identity. So when you refuse to play their game, you remove the very fuel that keeps their arrogance alive. You stop being their opponent and instead become a mirror of calm awareness. In the Shaolin Temple, we are reminded, the wise do not argue, they understand. Arrogance always seeks a fight. Wisdom seeks balance. When you say, let's agree to disagree, you demonstrate mastery of balance. You acknowledge the difference without the need for dominance. Think about it. Arguments are like fires. Every time you respond with anger, you add wood to the flame. But when you speak these words, let's agree to disagree, you pour cool water on that fire. It softens the tension, diffuses the heat, and reminds both sides that peace is worth more than pride. This phrase carries great power because it redefines control. You are no longer trapped in their emotional energy. You step outside of it, calm, composed, unbothered. And when you speak it with gentle authority, the arrogant person has nowhere left to go. Imagine someone challenging every word you say, refusing to listen, twisting your meaning. Instead of matching their tone, you stay still and say softly, let's agree to disagree. Then you stop, You do not argue further. You do not explain. You simply allow silence to follow. In that silence, your energy speaks louder than any argument ever could. It tells them, you are not afraid to let go. You do not need to win. You are free. And this freedom is what truly disarms arrogance. In Shaolin philosophy, we call this inner victory. Winning without fighting, walking away without resentment, speaking without raising your voice. Because true strength does not need to dominate. It only needs to understand when enough has been said. Arrogant people mistake silence for weakness, but silence guided by wisdom is the loudest sound in the room. It unsettles their ego because it cannot be controlled. So when you find yourself trapped in a cycle of endless arguing, take a slow breath and remember, no one wins when ego leads the conversation. Smile gently, look them in the eye, and say with peace in your voice, let's agree to disagree. Then walk away, not in defeat, but in freedom. For in that moment, you have done what arrogance never can. You have chosen peace over pride. Phrase 4. That's an interesting perspective. Arrogant people build their confidence by trying to make others feel small. They want to dominate the conversation, impose their beliefs, and make their opinion sound like the only truth. But here's the secret. The more they try to prove, the more they reveal their insecurity. When you truly see that, you realize they are not as powerful as they appear. This is where the phrase, "that's an interesting perspective," becomes a tool of wisdom. It is simple, but profound. These 4 words acknowledge what the other person has said without surrendering your own truth. You neither agree nor disagree. You simply observe. You remove your ego from the equation and stand in calm awareness. When you say, "that's an interesting perspective," you are not giving them the reaction they want. Arrogant people expect you to challenge them, to argue, to defend yourself. They thrive on emotional resistance. But when you respond with composure, their control slips away. You take the energy of the moment and turn it into peace. In the Shaolin Temple, the masters teach that awareness is the highest form of defense. It means seeing beyond the surface, understanding not just what is said, but why it is said. When an arrogant person speaks, it is rarely about the topic itself. It is about their need to be acknowledged. So instead of fighting, you offer acknowledgement, not of their superiority, but of their humanity. That's an interesting perspective. You say it with calm eyes and a peaceful tone. No sarcasm, no bitterness, just awareness. These words gently reflect their energy back to them. It shows that you are listening, but you are not emotionally attached to their opinion. You are in control of your state. Arrogant people expect opposition. When they don't get it, they lose rhythm. Your calm acknowledgement creates confusion in
their mind, because you are not reacting, you are observing. You are no longer a participant in their ego game. You are the observer of it. And that is where true power begins. In Shaolin philosophy, we say, the one who observes the storm is never carried away by it. That is the essence of this phrase. You are not swept into the chaos of their pride. You remain grounded, aware, untouched. You might find that sometimes, after saying this phrase, silence follows. That silence is not emptiness, it is control. It shows that you are centered, that you are not afraid of stillness. Arrogant people often fear silence because it exposes their insecurity. But you, standing calm and steady, remind them that peace is strength. This phrase also protects your dignity. You don't have to lower your vibration to prove a point. You don't have to convince anyone of your worth. By saying, "That's an interesting perspective," you are saying, "I respect your view, but it does not shake mine." So the next time someone tries to impose their arrogance on you, do not fight, do not shrink, simply breathe and say, "That's an interesting perspective." Because when you respond with calm observation instead of reaction, you teach a quiet lesson that wisdom does not compete with arrogance. it transcends it. And in that moment, your silence becomes your shield, and your peace becomes your power.
In the end, arrogance is not your enemy, it is your teacher. It reveals where your patience is tested, where your ego still reacts, and where your peace can grow stronger. Every encounter with an arrogant person is an invitation to practice mastery, not over them, but over yourself. The 8 phrases we explore are not tricks. They are tools. Tools of awareness, compassion, and inner control. You might be right. I see where you're coming from. Let's agree to disagree. That's an interesting perspective. And the others that follow, each one teaches you the same lesson, that calmness disarms where confrontation cannot. You see, arrogance feeds on reaction. It thrives when you argue, when you defend, when you let your peace be disturbed. But when you respond with awareness, when your energy remains still and grounded, you take away its power. You no longer meet pride with pride, you meet it with presence. In the Shaolin Temple, there is a saying, when the wind blows, the mountain does not move. Be that mountain. Let others speak with noise, let them boast or challenge, but do not move from your center. The arrogant person seeks to control. The wise one seeks to understand. The difference is simple. One acts from insecurity, the other from awareness. To truly disarm arrogance, you must rise above the need to prove yourself. Because when you no longer need to be seen as right, powerful, or superior, no one can pull you into their game. You stand in your truth, quietly, peacefully, and people feel that energy. It commands respect without demanding it. Remember, silence itself can be a phrase. Sometimes, the most powerful response is no response. When you choose silence over conflict, you protect your energy. You remind others that your peace is not something they can disturb. Each phrase is like a soft hand guiding you back to mindfulness. When you say, "You might be right," you release the need to control. When you say, "I see where you're coming from," you open space for understanding. When you say, "Let's agree to disagree," you choose peace over pride. When you say, "That's an interesting perspective," you step out of the storm and into stillness. Together, they form a spiritual discipline, a way of walking through the world without losing your balance, even in the face of arrogance. The truth is this: you cannot change every arrogant person you meet, but you can change how you meet them. You can choose calm instead of chaos, empathy instead of anger, awareness instead of ego. And that choice, repeated again and again, becomes your power. In the end, arrogance seeks to be seen, but wisdom needs no witness. So, the next time someone tries to challenge your peace, take a slow breath. Feel the ground beneath you. Remember your stillness and speak, not to defend, but to guide. Because the moment you stop reacting, you start leading. And that is when arrogance falls and true respect rises.